Okay, so we're gonna start, we're doing the 10 by 10 grid. It's gonna be 10 by 10 inches on here. We're gonna start making sure we have our name written on nice and large, and your class. I'm gonna call myself 8X. And then you're going to get this. This is a piece of Baltic birch, or I think it's Chinese birch actually. And it's 10 by 10 inches, so it already measures the 10 by 10 inches we want. You're going to kind of what I call eyeball. You're going to eyeball putting it in the middle. What the important part is that you're going to leave about the same amount of a strip here as on the right, and so that you wouldn't want it going like this, and you wouldn't want it going like this, and you wouldn't want it to be way up here, and you wouldn't want it to be way down there. So you'll set it up over here, kind of like this, and then I'm going to simply trace it. And then you'll have to share these squares once you're done. That's what I'm gonna have, a nice little square there. And you'll take this and pass it to the next person. A couple tips about this when you're doing this, please make sure it's ideal to actually stand up, clear everything off your table. Don't do this on top of binders. And when you're tracing, hold the 10 by 10 piece of wood down so you can trace around nice and carefully. This is a good time to stop the video before we move on to the next step. So now we're gonna start with the outline, and we're going to lay our ruler down. Very important when you check your ruler that you start at the 0, not at the beginning of the rule. The beginning of the rule starts a little bit before 0. 0 starts here. If this is 1 on your inches side and this is 2, this is 1, then the 0 is actually here, which is a little bit in. So you have to line up this line here with your corner, just like that. That's where you line it up. You don't line up the edge of the ruler like this, you line it up like that. That's very important. And we've got inches. You need to make sure you're on the inches side. And what you'll do is you'll place it right on the edge like this, and you'll place little tick marks. We're gonna do them just on the outside of the line, not on the inside. So I'm gonna put 10 little tick marks here on the outside. They're very, very short. They should be straight up and down, and they should be exactly in line with the measurements here, right? You're gonna do them exactly at the 9, at the 8, at the 7. Don't do it even a little tick mark off. It's gotta be precise. Then you're gonna go down the other side and you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, very precisely, nice clean tick marks. You don't need to do the corners. Then I'll do the bottom. I'm gonna line up my ruler again, the 0 right in line at the edge there. And then 1, 2, 3, nice little tick marks just below the line, not on the inside of the square, on the outside of the square. And last time I'll do on this side. I can set my ruler up if I want on the outside. I'm just outside the line, or I can turn it around this way on the line. Maybe that's better. Again, on the bottom here, setting up my 0, lined up. Again, on the bottom here, setting up my 0, lined up with the edge. Let's see if I can zoom in. On the edge here, it's set up with 0. Then I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Again, standing is a very good idea here, so you can look over top. If you're sitting down, you're not getting a good vantage point. So that's what we have here. You should have markings on the outside, not on the inside, all the way around, and they should be nice, clean, straight tick marks. Now's the time to stop and go ahead and do your own tick marks on the outside. Next step is to do the grid marks from side to side. The tough part about this is that you will have to draw as lightly as you possibly can. You may want to practice this on the side, because here we're not using this. You may want to practice doing lines, and I recommend holding the pencil like I'm holding sideways like this, not like this. It's hard to draw lightly like this, but if I go like this and I press kind of as lightly as I can, I almost float the pencil. I don't even think you can see those lines. They're barely visible here, but I can see them. We want lines as light as possible because you need to be able to see them when you're making a grid, but you don't want them to be seen at the end. So I'm gonna do this. First of all, I'm going to line up, this is the tricky part. Some people always miss this. Line up this tick mark here with your ruler and the bottom tick mark, and you're gonna line up the ruler so that the ruler actually lines up here and then the bottom lines up on the tick mark, and you'll check back to the top, because sometimes what happens is you line up the top, then you line up the bottom. By the time you've lined up the bottom, oh look, my top has moved. So it's like looking left, right, and left. You look to the top, you line it up, line up the bottom, line up the top, then press lightly as you can. And then line up the next one with your ruler, then go to the bottom, line up the bottom, check that the top is back on. I'm gonna have to readjust that. And then I'm going to draw as lightly as I can. Line up the top, line up the bottom, check again, lightly as I can. I'm gonna do all of these vertical lines connecting from top to bottom, and you'll check them. If they don't connect to the tick marks, you need to erase. If it's dark, if it's as dark as your outline, you need to erase. And then of course I can turn sideways and I'll line up the top with the bottom, check the top again, press as lightly as possible. Line up the top, line up the bottom, check the top, and line up. And I'm starting to get a grid here, and it's starting to be in grid format. And then I'll go until it's completely done, and then I'll have a nice complete 10 by 10 grid. You can start on your work now. Now I have my 10 by 10 inch grid with 10 columns and 10 rows, and in a few minutes we're going to label them. Okay, and the last step is the labeling. This is the most important part. We're going to label letters on the bottom and numbers going up and down. So we're simply going to label A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J on the bottom and the top, and 1 to 10 from the bottom going up. You should do this nice and neatly, because you are going to be referring to these squares when you are drawing your outline and then when you are drawing the shading. So you'll need to refer to E7, which is right here, or H4, and you'll need to be able to identify that quickly. So if this is messy, or these letters are messy, it's going to be difficult. One more thing we need to notice here, very, very important when you're doing your letters and your numbers. The letters go in between the spaces. They do not go on the lines here. Some people are drawing the letters here right on the line. They have to be in the spaces, and the numbers as well, in the spaces here, not on the lines. You stop right here and put on your own numbers and letters.